Welcome back to Nothing But Nets. I am joined by Pete from Nets Fans You Know, and also with Jonathan from Everything BK Nets. John, we know John from everywhere. The Nets get absolutely embarrassed and annihilated by Cleveland in their first game without Schroeder. Also, no Cam. It got real ugly offensively, specifically in the first half. I'm going to turn it over to my panel. Pete, I'll start with you. Introduce yourself. Where can we find you? What do you got going on? And your thoughts on the Nets game and the offense specifically.
Yeah, like you said, I host the podcast Nets Fans You Know. I have an episode with you, Gary, coming out. Hopefully, it was supposed to be out already. I'm going to try to put it out tonight, but I got some work stuff that I might have to do. So maybe tomorrow morning, we'll see. But yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Net Fans You Know, and Twitter. And as far as the game, it's to be expected. This is the game plan was to lose. We lost. I think the focus on like the issues of the game would be the effort, right? I don't think you want to see the Nets lose like that. You want to see them be competitive. But this is what happens when you lose players to injury and you trade some of your best players.
John, Pete, I agree. I want to get back to the effort thing in just a minute because I got some questions on that as well. John, let me turn it over to you. John, introduce yourself. Let everyone know where they can find you. And give me your thoughts, your initial thoughts on that disaster yesterday at the Barclays Center against the Cavs.
Oh, a lot of fun thoughts with that. Gary and Pete, it's always fun talking good basketball with you. To anybody that wants to talk fun basketball with me, you can follow me on my Twitter at OS91413John. I've done work on the BKNY Hoop Show, Breezy Podcast, Dylan's BK Network Podcast, and Gary's Nothing But Nets because I'm everything Brooklyn Nets John. Let's just call it what it is. Yesterday was a drubbing. It was a beatdown. It was total destruction against us. And, this is what was supposed to be expected, though. When you traded Dennis Schroeder, the heart of your team, the head of the snake, the ringleader, if you will, it was all going to fall like it was supposed to, just like this. But I think to what Pete said, just no effort last night, no defensive integrity. I mean, the only, I guess, positive, I don't even want to call it a positive, was Ben Simmons played 31 minutes for the first time this season, I think in a long time, and actually dropped 10 points. And Johnson had his 22, and Day'Ron was the only best plus or minus of the night with 15 points and 7 rebounds off the bench. But other than that, there really wasn't much to write home about. It's just when you're facing a stacked team like the Cavs and you don't give much effort on defense, especially defense with the rebounding, it's going to be a tough night at the office. So I just feel like there wasn't the right energy or right focus. And Jordy, he was not mincing words. He said there will be consequences if you don't show up to play with effort and represent the Brooklyn Nets. So it'll be interesting to see, just as we trade off more of these vet pieces, what is Jordy's temperament going to be with whoever's left and who will rise to that occasion or who won't. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question first because you mentioned effort, and I noticed too. There wasn't the same energy for sure on either side of the ball. It looked really, really bad when they trade your best player for. I don't want to say peanuts, but you didn't get anything in return. They got nothing this year that's really going to help you. That's the organization telling you we don't believe in you, and we're going to lose the rest of our games. When that's the message, and this is why I don't love tanking, and we'll get into tanking later, but this is why I don't love tanking. When you send that message to your team that we're not trying to win because you're not good enough, isn't this kind of effort, this lackadaisical effort, not giving it your all, isn't it kind of expected? And do you think that's what we're seeing? That, we're not trying to win, so I'm not going to bust my ass kind of thing.
I disagree with you. It's not a you're not good enough thing. It's we have a couple months ago we set a plan and we're sticking to it. And you guys actually were so good that we might have had to make an audible to try to make sure that we kept on plan, that we kept kind of just sticking to the script. Team is playing well, but they have 10 wins already. How many people would have told you back, I don't know, 2 months ago that we'd have 10 wins around this time? Not many. What was I forgot all the gambling sites. How many? What was the over under? It was like 30.
It was 18 and a half. 18 and a half. It was the lowest since 2004 by any team.
That's amazing that we're already at 10 wins. So I don't see it as that. But to your second point, the losing, does that affect culture? I think everyone's bought in right now. But as the losing does continue, it will be harder for Jordy to get the message across, because at some point it may feel like, you know what, like this guy's a great coach, the game plan is good, but no matter what happens, we're just going to lose. I don't know how long it's going to take. That's going to determine up to Jordy and his coaching. But let's face it, everyone on this roster knows that going into the season, the plan was to lose. So it's not a surprise. I'm going to quote CJ Holmes, who I had on, I recorded an episode with him today. It's more of a saying like, I knew this was coming, but god damn, it sucks. This is like, you know it's coming, but it doesn't make it feel any better when you get here.
I want to get into the tanking in just a minute. But I want to push back on something that you said, that everyone knew it was coming. Like, we knew it was coming. Sean Marks said in the press conference, and I understand he has to say it, but he still did articulate that we're not tanking. We're going to go out there and play hard every game and try to win. When you trade Schroeder on the first day that you can trade him and you get nothing back, at least in terms of this year, you're now contradicting yourself. You're showing everyone that you don't want to win, right? And he said the opposite. We aren't tanking. We're going to try to win every game. You see why that would be mixed messages, especially to the guys that you have in there who are busting their ass every day for Jordy?
No, because if you go to Jordy, if we're going to say that, then you also go to Jordy, who says that they've been on the same page since the start. Right? So now it's gonna, if we do one thing, obviously this is just to placate the media and the fans, because you have to sell tickets. They're not gonna say yes to tanking. And the players are always gonna play hard because they're trying to put food on their plate. But the players aren't stupid. They know. Everybody knew this was happening. That's why the media is asking them questions every game. What about the trade rumors? Why are there trade rumors? Because the team's plan is to tank. That's why you're getting asked that question, and everybody knows it.
Right. And you know what's so interesting for the people that are like, oh, we shouldn't be tanking right now. Culture, vibes, what Schroeder brought is more important than a top pick. And I'm just like, how can you think like that? This is the time of the season where you put the ego and pride away. Like, accepting after the Bridges trade that this is all going to happen is why it's more palatable. The fact that compared to 2016, 2017, we had 0 picks and we had over like 60, 70 losses. Now you have the most draft capital in the East. You have unlimited cap space. You have a great head coach. You're just missing the talent. Like, we have more pieces to the puzzle just by trading off Katie and Bridges and somehow got ourselves the most capital. So people are looking into the assets this team has. Like, we're in a great position. There are teams right now rebuilding that are think they're going to get a top pick by just being flat out garbage, who don't have as much assets as we do. We're actually in a great spot. So this losing is what's going to get you a top 3 pick potentially. So people got to understand that, yes, this is going to suck for a little bit. But once you get to that draft combine and you get a Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey from Rutgers to be your first New York prospect in Brooklyn, the vibes are going to change quickly. Like, people need to realize that. I understand it's a gamble. Drafting is a gamble, but this is the correct route in order to get all the pieces of the puzzle completed eventually. And you just have to try to accept at this point. Yeah, it's going to be tough to watch for the next few months, but we're in a great position to add even more draft assets when we trade Johnson and Doway. So we're on a good trajectory. It's just, I know the optics don't look good right now, but don't let optics get in the way of what the main goal was always supposed to be, which is getting a top 3 pick.
Yeah, tanking is really working in Detroit and Washington, and it's really jumped them up the pedestal quickly in places like that. I don't think having a losing culture year over year is good for anything. I think it's a disaster. I think it's going to take a special coach to get you out of that. If we go over the teams that win the championship every year, at least in recent history, none of them ever tanked. So, like, look, I don't have a good answer. Like, the Nets roster is terrible.
A lie. That's a total lie.
Let's take a look at it. I did this.
And I actually, it's funny you say that, because I'm writing an article on that. If you look from 2000, let me finish. From 2000 on, you have either your top player this is from 2000. I'm talking about the Lakers to last season. This is the only teams that maybe you could say tank or not tank, but they had a top pick that propelled them. Or they got, let's say, forget that, Pete. You look at Jokic. Okay, you have Jokic. You have teams that had LeBron, like the Lakers, and maybe like the Detroit Pistons. And I think that's about, I don't have the list right in front of me, but those are the only teams. Oh, and Toronto with Kawhi. Besides those teams, every other team had a top pick that helped propel them to either add other players, like you had Dwayne Wade bringing in a LeBron. You had Giannis, who you'd say, oh, Pete, that wasn't a topic. But you draft. The point is, the higher you get, the higher you draft, the better chance you have at getting a Giannis. You're not going to get super lucky and get Jokic in the second round every year. When was the last time you had an MVP picked in the second round before Jokic? It doesn't happen.
Can I respond to that now,
Doesn't
Pete?
happen, Gary.
I hear you. I've heard this argument 1,000 times. Now let's look at the
It's
actual
the truth.
evidence. Since 2000, yes, in the modern NBA, I'm going back to 2000 and the Golden State era, right? So 2016, 2017 on, right? The modern NBA. Not one of those teams ever tanked. The teams that have won the championship, Golden State, didn't have a top 3 pick. They took step 7th overall. 7th overall is not a tank. They got Klay Thompson in the middle of the first round. They got Draymond in the second round. They got Kevin Durant via free agency. Okay, they won in 17 and 18. In 19, Toronto won. They didn't draft Kyle Lowry at all. Kawhi Leonard came over in a trade. In 2020, the Lakers won. They got AD.
That was LeBron. They signed LeBron and traded for AD. If you take out LeBron, do me a favor, take out LeBron, because LeBron is the generational player. Take him out. How many teams actually did it? Yeah, you had Golden State. How many times are you going to get? How much time are you going to get?
Pete, can I go through the list with you? Can I go through the list with you?
Go ahead. I'm going to get my notes out.
Go ahead. 17 and 18, Golden State won. They didn't tank. 19, Toronto won. They never tanked. 20, the Lakers won. They never tanked. 21, who won in 21 was Golden State. Wait, who was 21? Milwaukee. They got Giannis. They got Giannis in the middle of the first round. Traded for Drew. Traded for Middleton. 22 was Golden State. Again, they drafted Steph 7th, not tanking. They got Draymond in the second round and traded for Wiggins. That's their 3 best players. In 2023, we got Denver. Denver traded for the Murray pick and drafted Joker in the second round. In 2024, Boston never tanked. They were in the playoffs every year except for one. They traded.
So they had our draft picks from the trade.
Right. And my point is, they never tanked. Tanking to championships doesn't happen. You can't get
your Golden State argument is your Golden State argument. You could say they didn't tank, but they went. This is what they did. They had a year of 29 and 53, 26 and 56. They had 1 year they went 36 and 46, and right before Curry, they went 23 and 43. It's not tanking, but they had years of a lot of losses that helped them and them to get the
Nets were going to be bad regardless. With this roster, the Nets are going to be bad. You don't have to
really tank. Because that Golden State team had 26 wins, finished the season with it. We already have 10.
So since the Golden State era, and I say that's like the new era of basketball. So from 2017 on, which team that won the okay, then tell me which team from 2017 on tanked and then won a championship. Because teams tank every year. Which team won a championship that tanked?
It doesn't. It's not about before. Yeah, you're saying that, but the thing is, tanking has just started since when? The last 10 years. I can give you evidence that when you lose, and you lose a lot, it gives you a better chance of getting a draft pick. So if you want to maximize your chances, fine. Okay, let's not.
I wanted to save this for later, but
you don't get a Dylan Harper. Fine. You're right. Yeah, yes, the team that has tanked has never won. So I got to look at the list. But all these teams just wound up tanking because they sucked.
But you do need draft picks to win a title too.
So basically, we're both saying that both guys have to suck, whether they're trying to or not trying to. Right?
Pete, I understand what you're saying. Let me counter that. The Nets have maybe, along with Washington, the worst roster in basketball. Putting Dylan Harper, everyone in this panel loves Dylan Harper, right? We all love Dylan Harper. Come on, Pete. Who do you like? Give me the name of the guy you like. You like
obviously. Okay. Yes, I like Dylan Harper.
All right. You put Dylan Harper on the worst team in the league. You know what you have? You have the Pistons. You don't have them close to it. This is not 1984 where you can draft Olajuwon or Ewing on a garbage team and that one guy is going to change the game. The league is too talented now where getting one guy doesn't make your team. You're just the Pistons with Cade Cunningham, right? And the Pistons are going to continue.
Oh, actually, no, I lied. I do know a team that won a championship. I think it was the Houston Rockets. Actually, right before the draft. Man, what is this? I got to look this up. I think it was right before the lotto was created. You had teams tanking to try to lose to get a draft pick, and I think Akeem Olajuwon was
Correct.
actually so that actually is one.
Yeah, so your example is 40 years ago, correct?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
the last time,
so I think, a better player, and it was right.
I think that makes my point, not yours. That the last time you can come up with a situation where it worked was 40 years ago.
But the thing is, they still suck to get better talent. That you don't have to. You can make an argument. Fine, teams tank the last week of the season or last 2 weeks of the season because that's happened before.
The Knicks sucked to get Zion back in 18-19. They sucked. They were terrible. They ended up with RJ. How much better did they get with getting the third pick in the draft? But then,
they could
free agency, they got Brunson, and all of a sudden they were contending.
Lottery. You could have won the lottery in another. It's like I understand what you're trying to say.
They could have won the lottery. Who won the lottery that year? New Orleans won the lottery that year. They got Zion. How are they doing?
I'll wait.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for being so eloquent and letting me talk for once. Is you lose, you get the best chance to get a pick. You made probably one of the better arguments for non-tagging. Cool. I could salute you for that, for actually making sense. Because most of these people don't make sense. I will give you that. But the fact of the matter is, the best chance you have to get one of these top players is by losing. Yes or no?
Your best chance to get a best pick is from losing. Yes, obviously. Correct.
That's the point.
Getting that player, like I said, getting Ben Simmons and people tank for Ben, getting Zion and people tank for Zion, getting Cade Cunningham, getting Anthony Edwards, getting all of these guys that people tanked for, didn't bring teams anything. Minnesota's won the lottery 3 times. They can't get to the finals. New Orleans won the lottery twice. They can't get out of the first round. Philly tanked for a decade. Trust the process, remember?
They got
Gary, Gary, this is the problem we're facing right now. We have 2 directions. We go the draft route, or we get Jimmy Butler, Brandon Ingram, 2 guys who are way past, their overall skill sets. I mean, Butler can still give you some stuff, but if that's the best guy you got in 2025, I'm going with the draft. I'm not giving a 36-year-old a max salary contract. I'm not giving a guy with injury problems like Brandon Ingram, who scores well, a max salary. I'd rather take a chance on a Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, because here's the thing. You got a Rutgers connection. You got a New York Star. Brooklyn is one of the top markets in the league. And here's another thing. The NBA is struggling right now to sell tickets. You talk about us being garbage and not selling enough tickets. Look at the NBA right now. Nobody wants to watch the NBA Cup. Kevin Durant just admitted that the new All-Star format, he sucks and he hates it. Like, Brooklyn going in against all these other middle market teams in the draft, I like our odds of getting a top player because I think the NBA league knows that if a Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, or a Cooper Flagg winds up in Brooklyn, the ticket sales, the media buzz, the marketing for Brooklyn will be all right. It's going to be good. Like, we have a good shot at this year. Like, timing cannot be more perfect for Brooklyn Nets considering what happened with the Big Three, how that ended. How fortunate is it that any potentially one of the what-if biggest championship teams in history led to having the most draft capital right afterwards? It doesn't happen for most teams, Gary. Imagine if the Pistons were watching our situation with that and they got all those assets right now. I think a star too might be going, you know what? That team has assets. They got a good coach. They got a solid future. I want to go there. Brooklyn is right there. I don't see Detroit, Washington being mentioned in Giannis, Ingram, Jimmy Butler conversations, but we are. So I feel good about our situation, but it starts with the draft right now.
Look, I don't have a good answer. Like, this team is terrible. The talent's the worst in the league along with Washington, and they have bad contracts. I've said Cam Johnson's a bad contract. Nick Claxton's a bad contract. Ben Simmons is coming off the books, thank God, but that's the worst contract like ever.
Woo!
But it is it's not a great situation that the Nets are in. And I'm not saying, look, maybe tanking is the answer. I don't know. What I'm saying is historically, it's not yielded great results. Pete, let me get back to you. What are your thoughts?
I think actually John like nailed it on the head. It's that it's so hard to win a championship. But if you look at this CBA and you look how teams were created as recently as 10 years ago. Oh, hold on one second. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Why am I echoing?
Wait, John, mute real quick. John, do me a favor. Mute real quick.
Yo. That's John, right?
It's John. Yeah, John, do me a favor. Just refresh and come back.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I was commenting on the live chat, and I thought that was me. But the point I was gonna make is it's so hard to win a championship, and with the CBA now, it's especially to hard to add in like contracts. The best way to build a team would be drafting a young star, and during those first 5 years of control, build around that person. I'm saying next year you don't have to even tank next year. I think it would be smart to tank next year, but let's even forget that. Let's just do 1 year of tanking. You build around, let's say, I'm just making this up. Let's say a Dylan Harper, and then you add with all this cap room, you could build and add free agents who work well, and you have some cheaper contracts on the roster still. You have CT who's restricted free agent. Man, you could really add in two max if you let's say 1 year tank, right? You could add two max free agents, CT and Dylan Harper. That's a nice little thing to build around. And it's only 1 year tanking. If let's say we don't tank this year, right? And you win 30. I think this team could have won 30 games if you bring CT back when he's healthy and you have Schroeder playing and balling out like he did and he stays healthy. You win 30 games, you're just eliminating that chance. Maybe you get lucky with a Steph Curry, right? And you draft, I don't know, you draft 10th and you get like a Steph Curry. But what are the chances of that happening? Like, I agree, it does suck to tank. I don't want to tank, but it just makes sense, logically makes sense to me that the most likely chance of the Nets winning a championship is probably from this route than getting lucky.
When big market teams recently, big market teams win a championship, do they usually do it via free agency? Well, that's going to be a mixed bag. Like the Lakers did it via free agency, the Celtics did it through the draft, and the Knicks don't win championships. So it's okay. You're going to get a mixed bag there.
I think you know what, Gary. I'll say that. I'm sorry interrupting you. I think it's something in the middle for both of us. That I don't think you're fully non-tank, and I don't think I'm fully like for the tank. I'm like I know it says proud tanker underneath my thing, but like I can understand, right? It's in the. I think there's a place in the middle, but I don't know what that looks like, right? And I think you could admit that you just said the same thing.
I kind of agree. I'm not even like necessarily anti-tank because I don't have a better solution, right? It's like don't knock my plan unless you have a better one. What's my plan? I don't really have one. Sign Brandon Ingram. That's not really going to make you a contender. It'll make you better.
Right.
Not going to make you a contender.
I don't want to be mid, Gary. I don't want let's forget tanking. We won 30 games this year. Re-sign Schroeder. Re-sign CT. Add Brandon Ingram. But like, are we really going to be knocking off Boston anytime soon? No. Then Ingram gets older. He's injury prone, or something happens, and then we're in the same spot all over again. We've been doing this over and over. Let's just try something new.
Right. And here's another thing, Gary. If you want to look at the star route down ahead, the only two guys that make sense for the Nets potentially, if we do want to curve this slightly, would be a Giannis or De'Aaron Fox. I look at Fox right now with the Kings. They're abysmal right now. I think the record is like 12-13 for a team that had high expectations after making the DeMar move. They're a team that's on the hot. Wait, hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Wait, Pete, hear me now?
Yeah.
For the Kings right now, who are on the bubble right now, to make. You can hear me?
You're good. You're good. Yes, sir.
Okay. Like for the team, the Kings right now, they're on the bubble right now with Fox. Like they're trying to make him happy, and their record is just not adding up. You look at a team like Fox, who has a history with Coach Jordy. He respects the guy. Like if the Nets do this right, we get a Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, and then a year down the line, you add De'Aaron Fox to his team. Then you're building more of a pieces to the puzzle, like Pete's talking about. Like it has to be something like that, because if you go big game hunting for these old aging vets or for Giannis, you're lowering your window. Like you're giving yourself like a 2 to 3 window, probably max, with the new CBA, the way the restrictions are. So is it worth it to gamble all that as soon as you get your new asset? I don't know. Maybe you take another year to build the process up more, and then you build more continuity, and then you could do something like that. But if you try to rush the process, Gary, or cheat the system figures out a way to cheat you back. And that's the worry with
you guys are trying to cheat the system by losing. Like you play the game to win the game. Like that's why you go out.
Gary, what are we trying to win this season? Listen, I like Dennis Schroeder. I was the guy who said Stroda every time this guy made a bucket, but I knew when was the right time to cut the cord on the guy because he's 31 years old. This guy was 25. Maybe we kept him, through the rest of this process because, like you said, you don't want to fight to lose. You always want to fight to win every year. But what are you winning this year? The Boston Celtics Celtics to win the first round just to be, hey, we lost to Boston again, or we lost to Philly, or like, why would we want to do that? Or playing? Why get a player participation award where your end result is you get to draft out of the top 20 again? Why would we do that to ourselves? With great crack of getting, it doesn't matter. We get one of those guys. That's the ultimate gamble of doing this route. And I believe we have a great shot against all these small team markets to get one of those guys, because the NBA needs to find a way to boost their ratings up. There's the ratings, and their financial system is starting to crash a little bit. So this is the right time for Brooklyn to do this.
Well, I mean, as far as the ratings, internationally, the ratings are great because it's a worldwide sport now. And I know they have weird TV deals. Pete may know that stuff better than I do, but the NBA from a financial standpoint is better than ever. Is that not correct, Pete?
Internationally, yeah, like it looks good. I think it's just USA ratings are down, and that's even another great conversation. I don't even know why. I'm not even sure why. I feel this. I'm really biased. I'm thinking it's because you take Kevin Durant off of the Nets, and I think that's a major market. But then, but I know I can't. It's tough. I want to say like the major market teams aren't doing well, but then the Knicks are doing well. The Lakers are and the Nets don't even usually get that high ratings anyway. So it's like I'm not sure. Is it the other leagues? I'm really confused by it. I don't know what you guys.
It's a combination, Pete. I mean, the fact that the NBA Cup, they try to make this good and fun, but so far it seems the only teams that made it to the finals was middle-tier teams, and the ratings for that's going down. Kevin Durant just said that he hates this new All-Star format with the 4-team tournament. He says he just wishes it goes back to the East-West, and, the KD, Curry, LeBron era, it's going to be over in like 3 to 4 years. You have to find new stars. You got guys like Luka, Edwards, trying to compete for that top tier mantle. But I guess the fan bases are like kind of about some of it because they want to know who are the stars that they can really build around. And then you had Katie, Kyrie, James, Simmons, and all these guys asking out, in the drama queen type way. And certain fan bases don't want to get too attached to certain teams because they don't know if a star comes to their team, how long they're going to be there. So I think it's a lot of that. The new CBA, in a way, is kind of like put pressure on teams that have to win. Like if you don't win and then you have to break it up right after, fan base are like, why do I got to go see this when it's such a short timeline? And then you don't win. If you don't win when you build a championship team, fan bases are going to feel a certain way like they did with the Katie, Kyrie, James era. On paper, that should have got you to the finals, and it didn't. Like, the old era ending and the new era just getting started. And this draft, I think, is the perfect way to reset the balance in the league because, yes, there's a top 3, maybe a 4 with Yegor, but I counted like 9 other guys in this draft that could be huge difference makers to any type of teams that are going to be in the lottery. So if this is the time to reset it and get the base, get the ticket sales, like Pete says, back up in the U.S., it's this draft, and I'm glad Brooklyn wants to be part of it and make some own history for Brooklyn to draft the first ever lottery prospect in Brooklyn. So the timing couldn't be better for us right now.
You know what, Gary? Let me step in there 1 second, Gary. I think John made a very good point that I wanted to make before, which I forgot. The way that this CBA is set up, you have teams like Phoenix and Denver in particular that I'm focusing on. That you have a lot of like several high-paid players that you could say that they're stars or like highly ranked guys that would be starters on most teams. And the thing is, the era of being able to add guys on the cheap via, buyouts, and then they sign with your team, like Blake Griffin coming to the Nets, that doesn't happen anymore. That's outlawed in the CBA now. So it's making it very hard for you to build top-heavy teams. And like John just said, if you're paying and you're in the second tax bracket, the second apron, there's like draft pick penalties by that if you do that 3 out of 4 years.
Yeah.
Right. So it makes it so tough. And I wonder, I don't know if that's part of the ratings also, in that if my team looks like a championship contender, but they're not, and now there's no hope. I wonder if that's some play or not. I
That,
don't know.
that's a great theory, Pete, and it also makes you wonder for the teams that are trying to tank right now. The NBA is looking at it like, wow, we try to make the system fair, and the fans don't like it, and now there's going to be a lot of middle tier market teams all competing for those top three. And you got a team like Brooklyn who's respectable in the market. Sean Marks, for all the stuff I criticize him about, he does take care of players. He does a lot of good business for the NBA, and the NBA organizations all seem to like and respect the guys. So you wonder for a team like Brooklyn, who Marks has a track record, you look at those three guys and you know you're going to get star ratings with one of them on this team. You're going to get good market value. So I think the NBA is in a tough position where they really got to decide, like, who are the right teams that can get our buzz back up, get our get the generation back up and all that. Because, like Pete just said, making the system fair now is kind of hurting, the ratings in a way. So you really can't win either way. But the good thing about Brooklyn is we have a chance to win just by getting in that top three somehow. So I like our chances. But yeah, the NBA's definitely got to start thinking about how can we make this better, because you worry about fan interest. You don't want it to lose, because I think it's starting to get better, and it's going to get better after this historic draft. So hopefully it doesn't get worse than it is right now with some of these teams.
Let me ask this question, right? Because if we can move Cam Johnson, and I'm confident we can. I want to talk about Cam Johnson in a minute too, because he's obviously the next piece to go. Him and DFS. But if we get Cam Johnson out of here and DFS out of here, either he opts out or.
Yo, I got to run, boys. I'll see you later.
All right.
Okay,
I appreciate your time, Pete. If you want a multi-year tank, right, John? You want to tank next year as well. I know Pete only really wants a 1-year tank, but you want to tank for 2 years. You want to stink again next year?
Unless Giannis asks out and has us one of our teams, I definitely say go the full tank route, because at that point there's no difference maker next summer besides maybe Giannis, and there's no risk in us trying to go after any one of those other stars because we don't know who else will be available. But I think, like you said, a 2-year route is smart for us because we have the opportunity. We got both our lottery picks back. You see, if you do well on this one, I think Sean Marks is going to want to do well in the second one, and then after that, we're going to be still armed with a lot of assets, cap space, flexibility, and there will be a better star market in 2026 via free agency or potentially a trade route. So these 2 years are opportunity years to build the core the right way, and not many teams get a chance like we do right now. So I would say that's probably your best route as far as maximizing the draft and building the structure the right way. So yeah, I'm open to it.
So let me ask you this, right? So next, if we get Cam Johnson, DFS, Ben Simmons comes off, we'll be almost $100 million under the cap. You have to spend at least 90 of that, right? You got to spend at least 90% of that. What do you want to do with those $90 million? Do you want to just get a bunch of bad players and try to lose? I mean, I'm asking a serious question, right? Because you're going to have to do something with that money. You have to pay somebody. Do you want to give really bad contracts out, like Tobias Harris type deals? Like, I'm being serious. What do you want to do with that?
Well, I think what Brooklyn. Well, I said this before in different streams. The safest route, plan A for the offseason, would be to use that cap space to, re-sign Thomas, maybe Daron if you keep him, maybe Zaire. You re-sign some of the guys that have shown you that they do want to be part of this future, and then you still have a lot more left. I would try to possibly take on bad contracts at that point. There are going to be a lot of teams looking to get off some bad players, and they're going to have to give up draft assets to a team like Brooklyn who has the cap space to do them favors, but at the same time, we're arming our draft haul even more. They said yesterday that we have close to the most in the league, and after you trade Johnson Doe away, we will officially have the most in the league. And then next summer, if we add even more by 2026 in the offseason, there are not going to be many teams that can touch us with the draft value we have to get any star we want. So that's a huge strategy move for Brooklyn. If they use that cap space to take on maybe 2 or 3 bad contracts, you could get maybe 2 or 3 more firsts potentially, or a lot of seconds to get your haul even better. So that would probably be the smartest thing to do, because unless there's a game changer out there like Giannis, there's not really other stars that move the needle for you. I don't think Ingram or Butler is worth it financially for us, because they're more like third pieces. You need your top 2 pieces first and foremost, and it's like you're starting backwards with signing the 2 of them, and that doesn't really help your value with the 2026 draft. So I think definitely plan A would be you take on some bad contracts with the cap space, re-sign some of your core members, and you add more draft assets to your haul. I think that's the smart plan, unless Sean Marks wants to do something drastic. So that would be the 2 plans right there potentially.
DJ makes a good point saying, Gary, Detroit, Wizards, Toronto, Hornets, Spurs, Jazz, all recent years spent that money on bad players because they had so much cap space. Yeah, he's right. DJ, you want to know the conversation? I'll send you the link. I'd love to have you on, but like, yeah, you got to spend the money on someone, and you want to bring in the bad contracts, and hopefully they attach picks to the bad contracts, so that way at least you get the picks to go along with the bid, like Zach LaVine or Marcus Smart. You want to bring in a contract like that, and then let him play out the contract for a year or two, and then have those picks.
Yeah, and here's another thing. You could also trade those salaries if you do want to go after a star. So it's a game within a game within a game. For us, for Brooklyn, we're playing multiple games right now. We're not just playing on the court. There's games happening off the court. And moves like that are what set you up way more down the line. And we're the team that can do it with the cap space. We have the most cap space next year. And some people are like, you know what? I hope they spend it on a Jimmy or Ingram. Because that's what Brooklyn has technically done over the last, decade and a half, which is go after aging vets. And that got us nowhere. But if we do which plan A is potentially taking on bad contracts, like, oh, wow, this team is not only getting stronger with the draft haul of assets, they're drafting well, they have a great coach, a developing culture, philosophy, structure, and then in 2-3 years, we'll be ready to add even more and be a contending team again. So that's probably even a better way to do the process the right way. Like, this is all about making chess moves at that point. So yeah, I would definitely be open to something like that too, because you got to do this the right way a little bit. We can't just go for Jimmy and Ingram, because I think you and I already know what would happen if we went that route, which is you're not getting anywhere.
Right, you're not going to get. I mean, you'll be better. You'd be a playoff team if you got Jimmy and Ingram and Cam. If you started a team that was, Ingram at, it's kind of a weird fit. Ingram at the 4, Jimmy at the 3, or flip that, I guess. Jimmy at the 4, Ingram at the 3, and Cam at the 2, and then you draft a point guard. And then you send your Claxton. It's a playoff team, right? I mean, you would acknowledge that it's a playoff team at that point. It's not a chance. You're not beating the Celtics. You're not beating the Thunder in the finals, but it's a playoff team, right?
Right. But here's the thing, though. I think for Brooklyn, if they want to be a playoff team again, they want to know they have a chance to go as far as they can. With that, you're not going to go as far as more than maybe the second round at best. And right now, the Celtics, they're in a dominant position in the East right now. But I'll tell you this, financially, those contracts that they gave on both Brown and Tatum, that's going to come to a head maybe 2 to 3 years, where they're going to have to actually sacrifice some of those pieces in order to keep those two guys. So I think once the Celtics' dominant reign comes to a potential end, or maybe they have to lose some pieces, I think that's when Brooklyn's going to want to strike, because they're going to want to be able to take it to a team like Boston, or even the Cavs if they keep their core intact. Those are the top 2 teams right now that a lot of teams are going to have to stack up against. And the thing is, the East is not as strong right now. So we have the ability to take our time these next 2 years, and the East is still probably going to be with the main teams on top and these other teams starting to falter. You look at teams like Philly and Miami, they might have to enter rebuilds of their own eventually. I know Butler's thinking about Phoenix, and they're going to take on Beal for some reason potentially, but they're kind of like doing a young route. They have Tyler Hero, who's starting to ascend a little bit. They got Bam Adebayo. Philly, I don't know what the hell happened to them, man. They just fallen off the face of the earth this whole season. Like, if their core doesn't work out next 2-3 years, they're going to have to break that whole thing up. So we're on the rise just by going the rebuild route, where there's a whole bunch of teams right now competing, and they don't have the pieces to win. They're a contender on paper, but they don't have the pieces necessarily to win a title. And those teams eventually going to have to break up all their pieces. And we're going to be already ahead of the process right after these 2 drafts. So we're on the right trajectory. Just don't let the other teams pressure you into having to make crazy moves. Because if you can't beat them, they beat you just mentally by they're saying, oh, we're going to be the team to beat. You have to make a big move to match us. We don't have to match them these next 2 years when we have our own draft picks. That's the fun thing. We have control of our future in a way for 2 years. And then after that, that's when you got to start stacking up against who's ever going to be dominant at that point. So it's a timeline. We just got to find our best way to stick to the timeline and build up the pieces the right way.
I think when you are in a major market, when you're like, if we played in Oklahoma City or we played in Salt Lake City, I would think, okay, the only way we can rebuild this thing is via the draft, just like the Thunder, just like the Jazz. Mm-hmm. You're not signing big name, top-notch free agents because they don't want to come to your city. They don't want to play in Oklahoma City. You guys live in New York City. Have you guys ever been to Oklahoma City?
No, I haven't.
No one ever wants to go to Oklahoma City. It's depressing. There's nothing there. There's 3 buildings and some factories. Like, there's nothing there. Like, there's no reason to go there, right? So, like, if I'm a free agent, I understand that they have a great system in what they're doing. I don't want to go there. Like, I don't want to. Like, I don't want to go there. Like, Oklahoma City is awful. Like, Brooklyn in New York and LA, people, you can sign free agents. So like we're gonna have this timeline. We're gonna build up a team like OKC did. It's like, all right, maybe if you hit on everything like Oklahoma City consistently does, you can do that. Or we can take our cap space and go get some friggin' superstars. And we have picks, so we're going to be able to get plenty of players to fill out our roster with and get good players. And we're going to get an all-star caliber player, you would think, in this draft. So, like, why are we doing that? Like, why are we going through this long rebuild when we don't have to, because we have the natural advantage of playing in New York City?
No, I understand, Gary. And the thing is, this is for 2 years right now. I don't see us in 2027 still drafting with all the picks. But here's the thing, 2028, we have like over 5 first-round draft picks and some seconds. Like, at that point, you're going to use most of those picks, probably go after start around 2027, 2026, offseason potentially. So our timeline right now is to utilize these 2 drafts to the best of our advantage, get maybe 1 or 2 top prospects, you add them to the core with Thomas if you resign them, and you build those next 2 years, and then you can go for it. At this point, Gary, we can have the most draft capital in the league right now, which is a significant advantage. You have the most assets in the league. That's what stars eventually want to go to. They want to go to a team that has flexibility, that has a draft picks to use as trade chips. We're not going to draft 16 picks. That's not going to happen. You're going to use a chunk of them to make a big move when the timing is right. And, DJ will attest to this as well. If we don't have a team to beat the Celtics, there's no reason to go after Jimmy or Ingram or maybe even a Giannis right now, because if you can't stack up to the best team in the East, you're fooling yourself, because, yeah, you're going to sell tickets, you're going to get wins here or there, but if you can actually stack up and get a win or 2 against them, what was the point of it? It's like you shot yourself in the foot when you had extra ammo already locked in for down the line. So these 2 years are crucial for Brooklyn, because you need homegrown prospects that stars want to come play with too. They just don't want to all go play with veterans. Look at the Suns right now, a veteran-led team, and they're barely clinging to a top spot because Kevin Durant, their best player, if he's out, Booker and Beal have fallen to dust. They're like 1-9. They have like a 10%. Gary, they have a 10% winning percentage without Kevin Durant in the lineup. That is abysmal. If we're in that position, it would be horrible. Like you'd probably be in the playoffs, but if you have one guy to rely on to hold down the fort and he's gone and your other pieces can't hold down the fort, you're just losing. You're losing for no reason. Like, we have a chance to set ourselves up the right way by constructing our own roster. We're not over the tax right now. We're not over no second aprons. That's a huge advantage opposed to the teams that are competing.
Let me bring DJ in. Let me bring DJ in. What up, DJ?
Hey, DJ.
What's up, John and Gary?
Real thought. You've heard both sides. You've heard my side. I'm obviously outnumbered. Your thoughts on the tank? Is the tank a good way to start rebuilding for the Nets, or is it just you build kind of like what I said? You just build a losing culture and then you're stuck in that.
No, I don't think we build a losing culture. I think I agree with you what you said. I don't want to tank, but it's kind of like, what other option do you really have? You can't go out and get these old. I don't know. Can you even call them? I guess you can call them superstars, but they're at the end of the prime. You can't go get them.
These borderline all-star players. Jimmy Butler at this point is a borderline all-star. Ingram's a borderline all-star. Like,
yeah, they're like stars. They're not even like. Yeah. When I think superstar, I think Steph Curry, Luka, Giannis. I mean, these guys are getting older. You can't expect them to come here and carry a young prospect like type team. It just doesn't work. I mean, I think you should tank. You get the top pick in this year's draft. I think I agree with Jonathan a little bit. I mean, maybe 2026 you try to tank for another top pick. AJ,
Cam Boozer,
Cam Boozer, whoever else
Peterson.
is in the draft, the next 2 years, and then you see where it goes, see where it takes you, see if you can get into maybe the play-in or something, bro.
The Nets are in a tough spot, right?
Yeah, they really are.
Teams don't have like Simmons is coming off the book, thank God. Right, but even after that, you still have bad contract. You're paying $50 million for the foreseeable future to Cam Johnson and Nick Claxton. You can't really compete unless you hit a home run and get a Steph Curry type deal with Golden State or Jalen Brunson with the Knicks, a home run type deal. You can't really compete with Claxton and Cam Johnson eating up that much of the salary cap. There's 2 guys who are very limited who offer you one thing. Right, like it's hard. So even if
they're one dimensional,
and you're paying them $50 million.
That's why you got to trade him, Gary. And we're in a gold opportunity with Johnson. There's a market for him. And I'm hearing like, oh, it depends on if the Nets actually want to trade him. Yes, the time to trade him right now. He's 20 years old. He's finally showing you the potential that he had with the Suns. He's now going more to the offensive bag.
I wanted to ask Jonathan that about Cam Johnson. But go ahead, my bad.
Yeah, like, listen, Johnson's playing the best basketball of his career. In November, he was 50% from field goal, 50% from three-point shot. There are teams that need him right now as a final piece, potentially, to put him over the hump. Look at teams like OKC and the Rockets. Rockets have over $40 million in expiring salary. OKC has over 15 draft picks. Those are the two wildcard teams that can make overwhelming offers to Brooklyn for Johnson, whether that's 2 first-round picks or a first-round pick and a prospect. Nicole Topic, Cam Whitmore. Like, if those teams want to actually win and it won't give you something close to what you want, we take that for Johnson. We run. You hold on to him again. His numbers probably regress next year,
and the offer goes down. Make you an instant championship team if you're Houston or OKC. OKC is what? Is that still the number 1 seed?
They're number 1 seed. Their 3-point shooting, surprisingly, I think it's around 17 or 20. Johnson would help them in one weakness
Houston
right
is
there.
The 2nd or 3rd seed or something like. I don't remember. I think there's a 2nd and 3rd seed now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting Johnson, I don't think that's the answer for that. Well, for me personally, I don't think they're going to mess up their chemistry. I don't think they're going to make major moves. I think it'll be small moves because I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to want to mess up their chemistry because if you trade for Cam Johnson, you're going to have to like throw in a young guy and throw in probably a draft pick. Me personally, I don't think his value is as high as every Nets fan think it is. I mean, we saw what happened with the Dennis Schroeder trade. So I mean, I don't think Cam Johnson is going to get a really. We're not going to get a haul back for Cam Johnson.
Well, you're definitely going to get a first for him. I think the prospect thing is interesting. But there's some. You get a first, definitely. I think you could negate the second first for maybe a prospect. I look at a team like the Kings, though, who might be willing. I look at the Kings, DJ, might be willing to give you 2 because look at the Kings right now. They're 12-13. Their team is not gelling well, and they have to keep Fox happy.
I mean, DFS, no, I agree with you. The Kings, yeah, but I think it would be better for them to trade for DFS, not Cam Johnson.
I agree, too. Either one of them. Listen, you look at the wings right now, it's literally Doe, Johnson, and the guy from Kyle Kuzma. Those are the top 3 wings right now, and we have an advantage. We have 2 of them. Like, there's a market right there for those 2 guys. If you could finagle maybe a first for Doe and a first for Johnson, success. You got 2 firsts for those 2 guys. You move on. Like, Sean Marks has to get 2 deals across the table by February 6th. If he holds on to either one of them, it's a failure because you actually had a chance to get off of them right now and you didn't take it because you were greedy. Just like with Dennis Schroeder, don't be greedy. Get a deal across the board and you might get a Dylan Harper or Ace Bailey. That's it. It's as simple as that.
I just want to put this out there real quick, right? The NBA salary cap, before you go over the cap, is $140 million. The Nets have 90 of that $140 million wrapped up in Ben Simmons, Nick Claxton, and Cam Johnson. Is it possible? Is it humanly possible for Sean Marks to mess it up any more than that? Like, can you be worse than that?
Unless he signs another guy on our team for like something like another like bad contract, or if he goes out and it's possible. I mean, it is possible for him.
You have to work. You have to try really hard to be worse than Sean Marks. Is my point.
Yeah, he can mess it up. I don't know how exactly what will happen. It'll be maybe he gives. I don't know. Maybe he gives somebody else a contract on this team. But I don't see.
You still gotta have 15 guys on the roster, right? And 3 of them, 3 guys who aren't good. Like,
so what is that? So it'll be Cam Johnson, DFS gone.
And then maybe Claxton at the deadline if the team makes an offer for him
at all this season. I don't see him getting traded because I think his value. He's been so bad. I think we'll have to wait till next season because like to see what he can do.
Yeah,
because like you're not going to get anything good back for Claxton right now.
Yeah, I'm just holding out hope that the Lakers get desperate. If they miss out on Vucic, Jonas Valanciunas, or Robert Williams, Claxton is your next best bet, and we can pull something off and get rid of Claxton and keep Day'Ron.
That's a great move.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. That's about it. Yeah.
Right
if you get
the Lakers, that's what I'm saying. Like, so if you could send him to
the Lakers, they said they wanted a big body center. Claxton isn't a big.
Yeah, but is Jonas Valanciunas and Robert Williams and the other guy? Is Vucic? Are they better defenders than Claxton is? They're not.
Well, they did say Jakob Poeltl, so
I don't think it's Jakob.
Hang on real quick. If I could send him to the Lakers for D'Angelo Russell's contract, and then you can buy out D'Lo or maybe trade D'Lo. I don't know what his value is, and a pick. I get the money off the book. Pick. I get whatever. I don't care what it is. That's fine. Like I'm just trying to get rid of Claxton's contract so I can get away from his contract. Now they have Claxton and AD. Defensively, that helps them a lot.
Right.
No, it does. Yeah, it does. I was just saying because what Rob Pelinka was saying. He just wants a big body center next to AD.
Claxton's not that.
Yeah, he's not a big body. He's
right. But if you put Vucic and Valanciunas against Nikola Joker and the Nuggets, think about this: the Lakers do not want to face the Nuggets in the first or second round. They hope a team knocks them out. But if it's just LeBron and Davis against the Nuggets are going to sweep them. Even though the Nuggets bench is terrible, their core starting four is dominant enough to run past the Lakers right now.
Even if they go get a Claxton or whoever center they get, they're going to get swept. They're going to get knocked out the first round anyways because they just. I mean, you got a 40-year-old LeBron on your team. I mean, of course you.
And well, you just hope the Lakers are desperate to make a move because they want to be in conversation with everybody, but they're not making any damn moves. Claxton gives you a fighter's chance. It doesn't give you a championship formula, but having him and Davis, it's a balance. One guy's offense, one guy's defense. You run with LeBron and see what you can do.
A lot of these I'm not gonna lie, these Laker fans really love Jakob Poeltl, bro. I see a lot of these podcasts talking about Jakob Poeltl. They want him bad.
I'd be surprised if they trade Jakob.
He's a good player. He's
averaging I think he's averaging like 16, 10, and like 3 blocks or two, 3 blocks.
He's a good player. He offers you a lot on the inside. I mean, Jakob Poeltl he's 10 times the basketball player Nick Claxton is, right? Like and he makes less. This is what I mean. It's not that signing Nick Claxton was the worst thing in the world.
I think that deal was that money.
The money was too. Like
when you're
competing against Detroit, like keep that in your mind. You're competing against the stupidest team in the league. Maybe just let him have him. Like, here, you want him that bad? Maybe that's a sign for me to not sign him because everything you do turns to shit, right? Like, so maybe you take him.
But Gary, wait.
Wow.
Gary, you say so you want to trade? So it doesn't even matter what we trade Claxton for. You just want to get rid of him.
I want to get under, and I think I think he has value. Right, but
he's been playing so bad. The most we're going to get out of him.
And here's another thing. Wait, here's another team to look at. The Pelicans. They're willing to break up their whole roster with the exception of Murphy, Herb Jones, and somebody else.
Jonathan, that doesn't even. I mean, maybe if you said that a year ago or like the early beginning of the season, but now they're getting rid of their star players. So I mean,
right, but if they're in a rebuild, I know, but if they're in a rebuild mode, you probably do a 3-team deal with Claxton going to the Pelicans, Pelicans sending out whoever they want to send out to another team, and we take back salary and picks from that third team. Like honestly, Claxton would give the Pelicans a chance to rebuild a little bit more. Yeah, he's on a contract for 3 years. Like the Pelicans need to be in reset mode right now, big time. Like I don't know if they want to do a full tank rebuild, but you're gonna need a center.
That plan though, Gary. I guess they off that plan of keeping Brandon Ingram.
If we can send a trade to bring Ingram in, right? Like let's.
I'm not doing it. I'm sorry.
No, we're sending Ingram somewhere else. We'll send Claxton to the Pelicans.
We send Claxton to the Pelicans and bring Ingram in, and that's the crux of the deal. So they have Claxton and Zion, and I know CJ's got 1 year left in that deal, and he comes off, and we get Ingram, and we agree to extend Ingram. Does that do anything for you? Or do you not?
No, I mean it's like you said earlier. It doesn't do anything for us. I mean,
it doesn't.
It doesn't make us.
You got rid of Claxton's contract, which is awful.
No, all right. I'll say this: whatever we do with Claxton's contract, I'll be fine with it. I just want at least a second. I'll be all right with a second rounder. Maybe.
Well, the third team is.
We're not going to get much value.
DJ, the third team is for Claxton. It's Memphis. His buddy John Morant. I know Zach Edey's had some good moments, but defensively, Edey has shown some faults. And if you get Claxton with Ja and Edey, that's going to be a tough 3 to stop. Like honestly, you think about it. Marcus Smart. You pair him with maybe Luke Kennard and a first-round pick for Claxton.
No, I think it would be Luke Kennard and then Brandon Clark. I think they want to get off of
that too. That combination works too. Like if I could get Claxton to where he wants to go,
I'll tell them to give me Luke Kennard, Brandon Clark, and then a pick. And
then that would be perfect. Listen, Marks hasn't
coming off their contracts.
Right, and Marks has a track record of getting players where they want to go. So if he gets Claxton to a place he wants to go, hey, if Claxton succeeds there, good for you. But I need to get off your contract right now. I'm thinking about longevity. So those are the 3 teams, Pelicans, Memphis, and the Lakers, that I'm looking at potentially making an offer for Claxton. If those other teams make an offer, you keep him, unfortunately. But there is potential window here to get rid of him for the right deal. It's just which team would bite first.
Every Net fan is really done with Claxton. I mean, a lot of these people that were praising Claxton last season and then talk to this season, they were really praising Claxton out off of him.
It's the contract. Like I don't hate Claxton. I don't think he's trash.
I think it's both though, Gary. I think it's his level of play. I think it's his style of play. I think it's whole archetype. I think it's just everything, bro. It's just, and his contract.
Because we signed him to be our center of the future, and now everyone looks at him and says he's not a center; he's a power forward or a small forward playing the center position. It's like,
but he can't even handle the ball to even be a power forward or small forward.
It makes no sense, and
he can't even handle the ball to play. If you want to play power forward or small forward, you have to have the ball handling skills. You don't have no ball handling skills at all.
Yeah, and he just hasn't
even dribble through his legs, bro.
He's improved nothing since the day he's gotten in the league. Got his ball handling.
I don't think I've ever seen Claxton do a dribble move between his legs, bro. Like
this is the problem with Claxton. You got to put him with stars to hide all of his weaknesses. Like if he was making like low salary and just being a defender on his team, I think it's more palatable. But he's got the money. He didn't take an opportunity to work on his game. Cam Thomas fits the system more than Claxton does with a defensive guy like Jordy, which is surprising to me. But at the same time, it shows you Claxton can't adjust to our system. And we're on a 2-year timeline rebuild. Claxton right now doesn't fit that timeline. Put him on a contender where he could play his role, do well, and succeed. But we need the assets to move forward in our rebuild. So if you can find a team to get off his contract, it's good for both sides. Like I want Claxton to succeed, but he's not going to succeed on this team in this system, unfortunately.
Let me throw out one more trade. Let me throw out one more trade. Let me and because he's got less years on his deal. He only got 1 year left on his deal after this. What if we send him to Memphis, which is one of the teams they were talking about, sending him to Memphis. I don't even think it makes sense for Memphis, but it's been mentioned. We bring in Smart's contract.
Yeah,
John said that earlier. Me personally, I wouldn't do that. I'll do Luke Kennard and then maybe Brandon Clark and then a pick.
That works too.
Both guys are like expiring.
Yeah,
I think Marcus Smart has like 2-3 years on left.
1 year. He's got this year and one more. So
one more. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really want Marcus Smart on this team.
Okay, it's a bad deal for next year, but we said you got to pay someone next year. Smart is at least a good locker room guy. He's a good character guy, and he can defend. He can defend.
No, he can't. He's a flopper though now, bro. I don't see his defense like how you see it.
If they entice you with the first for Smart, you take it.
Let me ask the question. If they, I'm not saying he's going to play 35 minutes a game anymore, but if he's your point guard and Cam's your 2, you got a pass first point guard who can defend and doesn't need to have the ball all the time. Does it kind of work? Does Smart and Cam kind of work together in the same pack card? DJ, let's start with you.
Sort of, it does. I think his playmaking skills is overrated as playmaker Smart, and I think his defense is highly overrated now. I think now, just this now, like how he is now, he's overrated in defense. His defense is kind of like slipped. I don't know if it's because of his age and he can't keep up with guards anymore, but I don't see it. I really don't want Marcus Smart on this team, but next to Cam, it might work.
John?
If you're looking at optics for the people that want this team to still be competitive, having Marcus Smart gives you a level of competitiveness, and he's been around a lot, and he's got a very experienced locker room leader. Like, he helps the young guys develop this season more, which is the main part of the program, developing. I understand the contract's a little dicey, but he does have 1 more year left. If they want to give you a first with Marcus Smart for Claxton, you take it and don't look back. And Smart will be a guy that Jordy trusts, because here's the thing. Do people want to watch Ben Simmons handle the ball? They want to watch Marcus Smart, a pit bull who they know what they're going to get for him. It would be Marcus Smart. So if you want to keep fan investment, trading Claxton for Smart works on different levels because it kind of makes all the bases happy right now. Because I know the anti-tank people are very upset right now. But if you get Marcus Smart, you shouldn't be upset. He's a veteran. He gives you defense and help elevate Thomas' game a bit. So that's a deal I'd be open to because he'll be better than Ben Simmons.
And as far as I want to get on that, Simmons now running the point guard. Now you're gonna have to play Simmons and Claxton together a lot because once you start, they have to be on the court to open.
Unless you bench one of them,
that would be because you don't have another point guard now, right? I mean,
I'll rephrase that. Unless you bench Claxton,
right? Exactly. So if we're gonna bench him and we're paying him $25 million, don't we have to trade him or try to?
Yeah,
we can.
Unless you want to do this, unless you sit Ben for the rest of the season, because he's not even providing you like anything at all.
Right.
And he's already coming off contract. You sit Ben for the rest of the season. You put Cam maybe at the point. Do we still have Shake Milton on this team?
Yeah, shake and bake.
And then you have Shake Milton as the backup, and then Keon Johnson as one of the backups. And then you have Cam probably try to test out. He's only we're tanking, so you could just test it out with Cam at the point.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't hate that. I've mentioned that before. It's gotten shot down largely. Like, let's try to run. It's tanking season. We're not expecting to win. We're not. Why not try Cam at the point? If it's a miserable failure, put him back to the 2.
having more on ball.
You know, it's interesting. Simmons played 30 minutes yesterday. He was playing garbage minutes. Apparently, somebody on Twitter said that Ben Simmons left in a huff after the game was quickly over. Like, he didn't want to be on the court to play garbage minutes. But this is like the problem with Simmons. Like, you need to be on the court and be a leader. It seems like Simmons doesn't want to do any of those things. So what is the point of keeping a guy that he now wants to play a bigger role in this team, but he's showing you bad body language again? It's just like, why not just cut our losses, send him home, like DJ says, collect his money, we collect the cap space, and that's it. Because I don't think people want to see us lose, for strategic purposes, but watch Ben Simmons just commit atrocity after atrocity. I mean, those assist passes, turnovers he was throwing yesterday were awful. I mean, awful. I mean, the fact that the Cavs were making 10, 15 points in that first quarter off of just his turnovers, it shows you that people just are done with it. They're ready for something else. Give somebody else those minutes. A young Tyrese Martin, Derek Whitehead, hell, Reese Beekman. Let's get this kid up in here, man. I want to see this kid play.
John, I've watched the tape on him in college. He's a backup. Look, he can run the point, I think, and he can defend. It's not going to be the worst thing in the world, but you want an NBA comp for Beekman?
Better than Ben Simmons.
Killian Hayes, but smaller and more athletic. He's an above the rim Killian Hayes, but smaller.
So a better tank commander.
He can run the point. He's not going to turn the ball over 20 times a game. He can run the point. He can make the right pass. He's a good distributor. But there's not a whole lot of upside. There's a reason why he was undrafted, even though I don't think he's terrible. He can play in the NBA, I think. But it's he's a backup. He's a guy he's a backup point guard in the NBA. If you want to play him, I'm fine with playing him. It's fine. Well, this is why I want Amari Bailey, because Amari Bailey has high-level skills. There's a lot to Bailey, where this guy is if everything works out perfectly with Beekman, he's a backup point guard. That's his ceiling.
Embrace the Beekman era.
I want to address this. There's R1 came up with 2 trades. CJ will have 1 more year left on his deal at $30 million. So CJ and a first for Claxton. I say hell to the yeah. Just make it.
I need 2 firsts. I need 2 firsts for CJ, man. That contract. That's even more dicier than Marcus Smart's contract.
It's only $5 million more than Claxton's contract. DJ, will you make that trade? DJ, you muted.
CJ McCollum in a first for Claxton?
Yeah.
How many years he got on this? Is CJ
you got 1 year left, $30 million.
Smart's making 20 something.
I don't know if I'll do the deal though. I would consider it.
You're getting a first with it. I would make the trade. If I'm getting a first for Claxton and a contract with just 1 year left on it, I'm making the deal.
Gary,
how much is Smart making his last year, Gary?
At this point.
What was that, DJ?
You just want any point guard at this point.
We don't have a point guard. We have 15 guys on our roster. Yeah. We don't have a point guard.
Gary, how much is Smart making his last year?
I think it's 21. Let me look at it real quick.
21 to 27, $6 million difference.
$40 million? $45 million?
It'll be $21 million. He's making 19 this year, almost 20 this year, and then 21 next year.
Oh, okay.
I need some seconds.
Brandon Clark,
Kennard, Smart, and
I don't think they're giving up that much.
Yeah, they get up that, but
that's a haul. Wow, that's a haul.
And 3 first. Wait, hold on. Whoa, that's a lot. That's a lot. I'm not gonna lie. That's
the answer to that is yes. I'm making that trade.
I mean, from our perspective, yes, we're making the trade, but they're not doing that.
You know what they should do? If they wanted both CJ and Clax, that third pick should be a swap protected. It's not necessarily ours. It could not be ours, but we still get the pick. But it could go back to Memphis potentially. So it would technically be 2 firsts and a swap, and that swap's protected. But those contracts would work with CJ and Clark. So I'd definitely be open to the deal if that was the ramifications. I know that they would try to, temper one of those 3 draft picks. We're not going to get all 3 for Johnson and Clark, but that's an interesting deal for sure to think about. Gary, you're muted.
Is Clark on a really bad contract? Why is his name getting mentioned in every trade? What?
They want to get off of him. That was one of the reports. They want to get off of him. He's injury prone. I mean, you really don't be healthy like that.
Let me check his contract.
And he doesn't really. he's regressed since like I think 2021, 2022. He really hasn't provided anything.
He had the Achilles tendon injury, and not every player can recover from that. So his stock has fallen. I just think that injury really hurt his confidence a lot.
If they want to trade him, they're gonna have to add somebody with him.
Yeah, that's an interesting deal, though.
He makes half of what CJ makes, and he's only got 1 year left on his deal. I want to get rid of that CJ contract so badly. Like,
Same.
Claxton together, it's $50 million. It's like you can't win like that.
Oh yeah,
I gotta wrap this up, y'all. I gotta wrap this up.
All right, salute, Gary.
Oh, fun show today, man.
Appreciate it. Yo, DJ, jump on more often if you can.
All right.
It's December 17th from Texas to the world. Thank you, and God bless.
Peace.
Salute.